Today, government ministries will continue briefing President Park Geun-hye of their plans for this year. The president is likely to reiterate her call for structural reforms aimed at revitalizing the economy. Just a day after lifting nuclear sanctions against Iran, the United States imposes new sanctions on companies connected to Tehran's ballistic missile program. Plus, Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe urges Seoul and Tokyo to swiftly but firmly implement their recent landmark agreement on Japan's wartime sexual enslavement of Korean women. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello to our viewers around the world. It's 6 a.m. on Monday, January 18th here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Broom. Our top story this morning, Korea's Culture, IT and Science ministries will brief President Park Geun-hye about their plans for 2016 later on this Monday. They're expected to report on measures to boost growth momentum and creating more jobs for young people. Now, entering the fourth year in the top office, President Park is seeking ways to overcome the economic challenges confronting South Korea. Our Shin Se-min starts us off.
President Park Geun-hye has turned her attention to the economic and security issues facing the country and is expected to emphasize these in an ongoing series of policy briefings from the members of her cabinet that began last Thursday and end later this month. On the economic front, the president is expected to press for action on her reform drive in four key sectors of the economy: the labor market, public sector, education, and finance. She has been calling on lawmakers to pass a series of pending economy-related bills and is expected to do so again this week. She says the reforms will help the government tackle the current economic uncertainties, in part through job creation initiatives. President Park is also expected to ask her cabinet to seek ways to strengthen domestic security in the wake of North Korea's fourth nuclear test, while also fine-tuning the South's response to the provocation. She has been calling for stronger, more comprehensive sanctions against the regime, and in particular is urging the North's longtime ally China to play its part in pressing the regime to give up its nuclear ambitions. Meanwhile, the presidential office of Cheong Wa-dae earlier expressed that it is preparing for any potential provocations from the North, including cyber terrorism. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
Now, South Korea's rival political parties are set to resume negotiations on a series of pending bills and redrawing the country's electoral map ahead of the general election set for mid-April. Ruling Saenuri Party floor leader Won Yu-chol and his counterpart from the main opposition Minju Party of Korea, Lee Jong-gol, will meet on Monday to seek common ground on those and other topics. Later in the week, they will meet with National Assembly Speaker Jung Eui-hwa to set the agenda for the remainder of this month's extraordinary session. On Tuesday, the ruling party in the presidential office will hold the first policy review meeting of the year. They're expected to discuss ways to pass the list of long pending bills, which includes a contentious labour reform package, a bill on the service sector, and a tax credit for companies that undergo restructuring. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe says South Korea and Japan must firmly implement their recent landmark agreement on Tokyo's wartime sexual enslavement of Korean women. In a joint interview with the Nihon Keizai Shimbun and the Financial Times on Sunday, Abe stressed that the two countries recognized the solution this time was final and irreversible, and that each party will do the things that they promised to do based on mutual trust. When asked whether Japan would still pay roughly $8 million into a fund for the surviving victims, even if South Korea does not relocate a statue standing in front of the Japanese embassy in Seoul, Abe avoided a direct response, simply saying that both sides will act responsibly to implement the terms of the deal. The Japanese military forced tens of thousands of women, mostly Korean, into sexual slavery before and during World War II. The US government has imposed fresh sanctions on Iranian companies and individuals over a recent ballistic missile test. The US Treasury Department on Sunday sanctioned 11 entities and individuals for their alleged role in Tehran's ballistic missile test in October of last year. The new sanctions prohibit US or foreign nationals from conducting business with any of the blacklisted firms. US banks are also ordered to freeze any assets the companies or individuals hold inside the American financial system. Among 5 Iranian officials who were sanctioned, 3 are suspected to have worked with North Korea on its missile development. The White House says the US sanctions focused on Iran's support for terrorism, human rights abuses and missile activities will remain in effect and continue to be enforced. And as we briefly touched upon there, international sanctions on Iran have been lifted after UN inspectors confirmed Tehran has upheld promises to drastically cut its nuclear program. Kwon Jang-oh has the details.
Iran is back in the market after the US and European nations lifted sanctions on Tehran and released billions of dollars of its assets. The go-ahead was given after the UN's nuclear watchdog submitted a report confirming Tehran had kept the nuclear promises it made in a historic deal with the international community 6 months ago.
Agency inspectors on the ground verified that Iran has carried out all measures required under the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action to enable Implementation Day to occur.
Implementation Day refers to the day the accord went into effect. To get there, Iran reduced 2/3 of its nuclear centrifuges, dismantled a heavy water reactor near the town of Arirang, and shipped out or diluted 98% of its stockpile of low-enriched uranium, all of which could be used to create nuclear weapons.
Its proper implementation will be a key contribution to improved regional and international peace, stability and security.
The announcement came a day after the US and Iran traded prisoners in an apparent goodwill gesture before the sanctions were lifted. The US released 7 Iranian nationals held for sanctions violations, while Iran released 5, including a Washington Post reporter who was held captive for over a year. Soon, Iran will regain access to $100 billion in frozen assets and reconnect with the international financial market. The news pushed Iranian stocks up to their highest level in more than 5 months. Meanwhile, the IMF has said the nation's GDP growth could reach 5% this year, up from its current near 0%. But global oil prices are set to plummet further than the current 11-year low, as the world's 4th largest oil reserve is about to flood the market with almost 500,000 barrels per day. Tehran has not been able to sell oil to Europe since EU sanctions were implemented in 2012. The international community will continue to keep an eye on Iran as part of the deal. The International Atomic Energy Agency has installed devices to monitor its uranium enrichment activities, and sanctions related to human rights abuses remain firmly in place. Kwon Jang-oh, Arirang News.
Now, as a follow-up to that report, South Korea's foreign ministry has welcomed the lifting of sanctions against Iran, saying it will promote stronger cooperation with Tehran. The ministry also said it will encourage the Iranian government to help international efforts toward the denuclearization of North Korea. Foreign Minister Yoon Byung-se also sent a letter to his Iranian counterpart Mohammad Javad Zarif, congratulating him on the lifting of the sanctions, saying it serves as a lesson for the Korean peninsula. Now, Korea's trade ministry has also released a statement saying it will lift restrictions on the trade of oil, cars and other items between the two nations. A bilateral committee on boosting economic cooperation will also be reactivated in December. The UN Security Council could make progress on a new sanctions resolution against North Korea sometime this week. This is according to a statement out of Seoul's foreign ministry on Sunday. South Korea, the US and Japan have already said they will pursue strong and comprehensive sanctions against the regime following its recent nuclear test. China has agreed to support stronger sanctions against the regime but called for a suitable response. The UN held an emergency meeting following Pyongyang's claimed hydrogen bomb test earlier this month. UN Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon condemned the regime, calling the test profoundly destabilizing. The North is already under an array of sanctions for previous nuclear tests in 2006 2009 and 2013. South Korea's former finance minister is the latest addition to the team from Seoul heading to this year's annual World Economic Forum meeting in Davos. According to Seoul's foreign ministry on Sunday, Che Kyung-hwan leaves for Switzerland this week as a special presidential envoy. Che is expected to deliver a speech on the economic situation in the region and the wider world. On the sidelines of the forum, the former finance chief is set to meet with the founder and executive chairman of the World Economic Forum, the president of Switzerland, and India's finance minister. The four-day forum kicks off on Wednesday at the Swiss ski resort. It brings together thousands of political leaders, government officials, and business executives from around the world. Now, in a very worrying development, over 400 people have reportedly been abducted by Islamic State militants in Syria after a bloody battle in the east of the country. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, which is an independent monitoring group based in the UK, reported the abductions, but it has yet to be verified by other sources. Now, according to the London-based group, there was a battle that left at least 85 civilians and 50 government troops dead. But Syrian state television actually says the death toll was even higher than that. Now, ISIS fighters are said to have stormed the city with suicide bombers, followed by a ground assault. Syrian government forces responding with airstrikes and heavy artillery. Now, the city has been one of several towns under siege, and the ongoing war, as you can see, has left much of the city completely devastated. Now, in health-related news, cancer diagnosis is often a painfully slow process, taking weeks or even months, giving the cancer more time to grow and spread. But there may be some welcome news on the horizon, though. A group of researchers from Korea and the United States are working to make diagnosing cancer much quicker, possibly, in fact, within a single day. Our Park Se-young has the details.
This mouse has colorectal cancer and breast cancer. A Korean and American joint research team injected the mouse with nanocapsules, which seek out cancer cells and release fluorescent substances. When the capsules are injected into the body and exposed to light, the organic dye inside the capsule glows in different colors depending on the type of cancer. In the mouse, the colorectal cancer cells turn green and the breast cancer cells turn blue. With the new technology, cancer can be diagnosed within 24 hours.
Using one source of light, we can not only diagnose more than 2 types of cancer, we'll also be able to see how much the cancers have spread.
The team used an up-conversion dye that emits short wavelength color with high energy levels when exposed to long wavelength light with low energy levels. 2 different types of dye are placed inside the nanocapsule, which is why different colors of cancer cells appear. The silicon nanocapsule and long wavelength light are also harmless to the human body. Although more research needs to be done with humans, the research team says the new method could reduce pain and the financial burden for patients. The finding was published in the January issue of the American Chemical Society's journal, ACS Nano. Park Se-young, Arirang News.
Now, it's pretty common knowledge that a good night's sleep is priceless. You feel rejuvenated with it without feeling like you're running on fumes. Well, the reason, in fact, scientifically, has to do with the kind of housekeeping system the brain uses to get rid of toxins that can be dangerous to your health. Han-dan tells us more about the importance of getting a good night's sleep.
Sleep is essential for health, but why exactly do we need to sleep? One of the reasons is to clear toxins from the brain. During waking hours, toxins build up in the brain, which can interfere with memory and learning. But when we sleep, the brain flushes these neurotoxins out through the glymphatic system.
The glymphatic system is activated during sleep. Brain cells shrink to open up the gaps between neurons and allow fluid to wash the brain clean.
Back in 2013, a team at the University of Rochester Medical Center that did studies on mice found that the glymphatic system became 10 times more active when the mice were asleep. And last year, UC Berkeley scientists found that the buildup of toxic proteins caused by a lack of sleep can damage the brain, potentially contributing to the development of Alzheimer's disease. We spend about a third of our lives sleeping, and sleep plays a direct role in the other 2/3 of our lives. So it's easy to see just how important a good night's sleep can be. 한다은, Arirang News.
Now, the city of Seoul is banning smoking within 10 meters of subway exits from April. Violators of the new regulations will be fined between 50,000 to 100,000 won. That's roughly 41 to 82 US dollars. All of the Gwanghamun area in central Seoul will also be made into non-smoking area. On top of that, smoking will also be banned within 10 meters of bus stops and in a 50-meter radius around kindergartens. This move is part of the city government's efforts to clean up the city and improve public health. Well, that's all we have for now on this Monday morning here in Seoul. Thank you ever so much for watching. I'm Mark Broom, and we'll be back throughout the day with more newscasts. Until then, goodbye.